All right, this is the Design Review Board regular meeting on Monday, May 18th, 2015. We'll call the meeting to order. We are missing a few people tonight, Ron Perry, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so we're good to go. We'll appoint no alternates because there's no alternates here to appoint. All right, discussion and possible action. Informal review of facade changes on the property of 776-782 Hot Meadow Street. Assessors map G10, block 205, lot 005, zone SC1. This be you?
Us, yes.
Us?
Tom and Tim Vincent.
Tom and Tim.
Oh,
I don't.
I'm Tom Vincent, that's my brother Tim, and I'm here to answer any questions you have, but basically I was notified on May 15th that we did have the meeting for the 18th and wanted me to come here and explain some of the information that we had given to the building department, and also I think I talked to Hiram a few times on it during the course of the last few months. Just to give you a little background, basically on the weekend of October 17th through the 19th in 2014, my brother and I were notified that
Could you speak up just a little?
yeah, my brother and I were notified by our tenants at this building that there was some leakage of water coming down from the porch overhang, which we knew had been in need of some repair. After evaluating it, my brother and I decided for safety reasons it was very important that we took it down. We went to town on that day on the weekend to get a permit for that. But as you know, Town Hall is closed on Friday afternoon time, so we were unable to do it. But we did take down the porch on October 19th, which is a Sunday. And after we did, and then on the week of October 19th, I did come back into Town Hall, which is to get a permit from Henry and inform him that we did have to take the porch down for safety reasons over the weekend. I know you have a copy of I believe a request from the Historic District. And let me bring it to your attention because I believe on number 56 and 57, the Senate says the commissioners discuss whether any comment could be made regarding the unpermitted elimination of Vincent's porch, although it is not within the HDC's purview. I just wanted to correct that because we did attempt to get a permit, and we did come in on the first opening of office days on the next day.
After the porch came down.
Yeah, to be able to tell them. And Hiram and Henry have been very helpful as I've come in there a few times to try to explain the simplest way that we would like to address the issue moving forward. We did send you a couple pictures and an explanation, a page explanation. I do have for the record. Those are pictures I did take today of the building in 3 different views. The pictures you may receive are probably not as clear because they were copies, so I did a little better job of that. One of the other things that I think Rachel had mentioned to me in an email on the 15th was pertaining to that the building official wanted to have a cover on the door required by the meaning of the building code. And we have had that cover on that door, as you see in the picture. So it has been there for a while. I think as you look at these photos, some of the things that we are going to do is eliminate the door up above and put a window that's similar to the other two. We're We're gonna move the Vincent Sport Shop sign, which has been there, was on the porch, we saved it, put it there, we're just gonna move it up a little bit so that we can actually do the proper overhang on the bay windows. And that sort of, I think, described what we had put in on our application for a building permit, which I did do on May 6th. If you have any other questions, glad to try to answer them.
In the old days with the door up there, was it that porch ever used on top?
Yeah, that was, as I said,
Or something?
in the beginning, for safety reasons, we took it down, and with the winter we had, thank God, we did take it down, because it probably may have collapsed at some point. We also, my brother and I, have safety concerns, because as we go forward, and we've had in previous Memorial Day parades or any events that's in the center of town, people do get up there. We've had quite a few people up there, and we had a concern that we certainly don't want anybody going back up on that porch as it was. And we did speak to the fire marshal the last time he came in to do a evaluation of the building. And he did give us permission to put a window in there replacing that door, because we also have two other methods of egress from the building already. So that's the third, which I believe we only need two. I think Hiram told me that before.
And with the, replacing the door with a window so you can't get a porch, the rationale for not rebuilding the porch?
A couple of reasons. One, over the last probably 15 years, we had to keep repairing and replacing certain things out there. And we also have a concern of, the main concern of safety of people on the roof.
Well, if you have no door, you can't get on the roof unless you want to come out the
Exactly.
window.
Yep. But they couldn't use the window.
Okay.
Both apartments upstairs have a door that leads right to that door that goes out on the porch. So either one of those tenants could open the door, go out through the window. And at this point, we have two children that are actually living up on one of the apartments. So we definitely wanted to eliminate that safety problem.
And is that window a fire escape window or something?
No, they have
It's not an
two,
egress?
two egresses that by law they already
So the
have.
window could be closed permanently?
Correct.
You gentlemen have known me a long time, and you know, I say what I think. And this is informal, so we have a license to do that. And frankly, the pictures that you're showing us, in my opinion, don't say a whole lot, okay? And you are in the middle of the town of Simsbury's main street. You are in what is history right along that whole area. The Historic District, or the Historic Society, your building, the Palmer, the building on the corner that we talked about last week, and then Eno. And frankly, that is what I would like to see. The picture in this packet. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Porch?
This porch?
Was that from the Historic Commission?
Yeah.
The one,
And to me, I mean, I have no problem with a window replacing the door. But the problem I see is if you compare these two, there's no argument. From a design standpoint and from a how it fits in the block and how it fits in the location of the town. I'm sorry, not that one, but what you're suggesting,
This one.
if it were next to Simsbury Town, no problem. Okay? That's my statement, and if you came with a formal application, you would get the same answer from me. Our guidelines refer to design of new structures or remodeling of existing structures have to fit the area, have to fit the block, if you will. And I think it's clear, I don't know whether my colleagues agree with me, but it's clear to me that this is very obvious. And it is the building that has been there and part of the rest of the historic structures that are in your neighborhood. And I would clearly like to see it maintained.
Gentlemen, I get a chance.
And John and I don't always agree on things, but I agree with him. It's unfortunate that the porch had to come down. If it was a hazard, I can understand that, if it was a danger. But the window can be removed, or the door can be removed with a window that is not used for egress, so the little children cannot get out there. And the porch is part of the historical building in a historical town. So I have a hard time not putting the porch back.
I fully
Janet,
respect both of your opinions, and unfortunately, I have plans from 1998 when we did the charrette for the town. We were going to fully repair that porch, and unfortunately, because of handicapped access, was not going to be allowed outside the building, which is now happening at the old Hot Meadow Center building, where you can have handicap access outside the building. We were going to repair that in '98 to the tune of about $40,000. To do that porch the way you want it, and not to enclose it to get at least some square footage like they suggested in the charrette, to us, it's a waste of our $40,000 just to have it cosmetically look correct. With this process, we're trying to get the building back to look as cosmetically correct in the historic district. We're not trying to make it look like the ugly building. We're trying to restore it. No, right now, sir, that is embarrassing to the Vincent family. We're trying to correct it as best we can within our financial means as of today. If down the road we can restore that porch financially, I'm all for it.
Well,
When it's all done, when it was all prepared back when we celebrated the bicentennial, there were 60 people on top of that porch enjoying that parade. Unfortunately, you couldn't put 6 birds up there when we tore it down.
No, I understand that, and with removing the window, or removing the door with a window will help that.
Correct.
But maybe it's rather than a short-term project to be done this summer, it's a longer-term project to sort of say, okay, we're going to put that porch back, and it's going to happen over the next, like many other historical things, happens over some period of time.
Well, I would propose possibly can we agree on this as phase 1 to get it back to where, to us, it's not a ugly building?
Hey, Jennifer, excuse me. Now, all of those concerns notwithstanding, and you can bear me out, there's a style of architecture called New England storefront. And if that porch were restored, and instead of having the railing there, that became a facade with only the ends having railing on it, signpost with Doric columns would be in keeping, and the windows, the doors, whatever on that second floor would be moot because they wouldn't be seen. I don't know what other plans they have for renovating the building or the siding or doing.
We did save all the columns. They're at my home. So our intent was to someday, financially, when we're able to, restore the front porch.
Financially is moot to this board, but
It's just money.
It's just, ours. Don't
but
worry
it's
about it.
it's a way of giving it a New England look and making the second floor windows and door moot, but it would require putting a porch back up there.
May I?
Yes.
So since I was late, do I have to be like read into the record?
You can do it at the end.
It's okay, we have enough, so everybody's seated, that's fine.
First, I want to say I agree with the other comments that it's really unfortunate you took the roof down. One of the reasons for a permit process is that someone would look at it. You know, I'm a little, I guess, disappointed that it suddenly became a crisis on a weekend, and there wasn't an opportunity for anyone in the building department to see it and say, yes, it is an imminent hazard. But having said that, you know, the integrity of the building is in part represented by this porch. So some architectural details as part of the solution, whether you put a whole porch back or not, I think is more complicated than just, you know, having some pictures and a sketch. I mean, I wouldn't be comfortable at all considering any proposal based on what we're looking at because there's not enough there. I think it needs to be really part of a multiple stage process. It's gone long enough as it is that, you know, it's weather tight that I will say, why rush it to do what you're proposing? Because I don't think it's aesthetically in keeping with what the ultimate goal would be, and then you're just putting good money after bad. And come up with an actual plan, get someone who has some, you know, an architect who can give you some solution that we could feel comfortable with. Because I think the consensus of the board is pretty clear that nobody's comfortable with the pictures.
Well, I've got the complete Emil Dahlquist.
Right, but there might be somewhere in between, if that's an impossibility.
Yeah, sure.
You know, but if that's an impossibility because of
Yeah, it's pretty much
other-
impossible.
Right, so
Yeah. no,
I'm
I
saying,
just
all
wanna
right,
see it.
you know,
I'm just curious.
Yeah.
From 1998, you said? Not saying. Oh, right, but I'm just curious.
it looks pretty nice.
Absolutely. And we came to the boards and tried to get it done, and we couldn't get it done.
But that's not what we're talking about.
Bring it to the boards again, and they'll look at it now, in
Why did the board
2015.
Because we were enclosing it. Obviously, there's some financial reward for
Oh, yeah, I would
enclosing
not.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay?
And the reason you
well,
couldn't
yes.
enclose it, they were against you enclosing it?
The amount of money that was suggested by the charrette was like around $32,000. And then by the time we got through with all the building, where the handicap had to go, gaining 650 square feet, all of a sudden became 400 square feet.
So there's no other
because-
handicap access to the building?
No, it's
now?
grandfathered in. That's what I mean. I was hoping this would just be repair.
So
not-
if they repair the porch,
Reconstruction is a whole new ballgame.
but if they
Oh,
put
no.
the porch back the way it was before it came down, does that count
Yeah,
as too?
yeah.
Now they have to make it ADA accessible?
I don't know. Hiram?
You know, I have to ask the building official, I really don't know, I didn't ask that question initially, because I wasn't aware of the enclosure concept.
But if all they do is replace what was there, that's a repair, isn't
Would
it?
it still be grandfathered into
You
being
have the columns.
non-accessible?
You
I
said-
have the comments.
And they're in good
If there was a
condition.
cupola or something like that. would that-
Pardon?
What is that called? Am I
pergola?
saying a pergola?
Pergola.
Because I have the columns, I could get the facade closer, but then I don't have to do a whole roof and
It's possible there's a solution in there, but I think that it's something that really needs to be thought out and drawn up. I mean, I don't think any of us would be comfortable voting on it just as a conversation. But this is informal, so that's what we're doing right now.
Yeah,
So I mean,
guess-
I don't know, would we be against the idea of a
From a
pergola?
construction standpoint,
I don't know.
the most expensive part of rebuilding the column. The rest of the structure and the roofing is not, you know, the kind of stuff that we're talking about.
we'd like to enclose it.
I'm looking
I know that's not your
at
concern,
what's
sorry.
here.
So eventually you'd like to
What you're
enclose it, but
Yes.
I'm looking at what you're suggesting here.
Sure you have the-
it doesn't stay good, that's all right, just leave it there.
That's not cheap.
And this becomes a signboard,
Right.
you know.
But this is just
And
nothing, just a couple
if
panels.
you
A door.
stand, if you stood in front
easy.
before the porch came down, that what is up here is somewhat obscured, you know,
From the road level, anyway.
From the road level, yeah.
Well, I think as my colleagues say.
Sorry, I cannot
there's a
feel
consensus here.
sorry for you. You own a beautiful historic property right in the middle of whatever is left over in Simsbury here, okay? And this comes with some responsibilities. If you own it for so many years, why in the world did you let it deteriorate, reach such a level, then you had to tear down the porch over a weekend? I mean, you know, all these pieces of the puzzle come together, and eventually, I don't think any committee, anybody will allow you to go ahead with this kind of, you know, really cheap, you know,
Band-Aid.
facade and, yeah.
Inexpensive,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry,
Well, you could not be in favor of phase one, but there could be
No,
other
no,
members.
I'm completely, no, there is no phase one, because phase one will remain permanent for another, you know, as long as the building will stand up there. No, I think sooner or later you'll have to fix it right.
We've had a discussion similar to this with another occupant, if you will, on Hot Meadow Street, when we're talking about phasing in, you know. What ultimately occurred with that, and there were informals before the applications. What ultimately occurred is that we were quite demanding in terms of phase and when it was going to happen, and it's a matter of record, okay? My feeling, I could sit down in a couple of hours and give you a pretty good quote on what it would cost to build with your columns and an appropriate roof section type porch, or even the railings. And looking at some of your proposal here, you're not going to spend a whole lot more money. All right?
But the key is you want
John's
to,
our man.
the key is you want to enclose it, though.
No.
Not necessarily. If he's talking about an expense
I
that
understand
is
what he's talking, but you were saying
under
enclosed.
10,000, then
Well, look, my point is this, that it's not our business to talk money. Our business is to talk what is appropriate for the location, how does the design of your building fit in the neighborhood, and the history, and the historical area of Simsbury. All this is part of the program. And I don't think anybody sitting at this table tonight is going to say, it's okay. It isn't okay. Clearly, simple, not okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
we have in the audience a member of the Historic District Commission. Mark, did you want to have it? It's an informal conversation, so.
I mean, I think I agree with
Could you
the board as
just
well.
identify yourself for the record?
Mark Nyquist. I'm part of the Historic District Commission. And you know, it's definitely, I've actually been in one of the apartments upstairs, and I've never gone out on the porch there, but I think I would, as landlords, maybe, you know, you want to get rid of the porch so there's not any issue with safety and people going out there. However, I think though that it could be of value as well, where your tenants may want to go out on the porch and enjoy, you know, the Memorial Day parade or a nice afternoon after being at work. So instead of it being only a safety issue where it's a safety hazard, I think it could be something that's looked at as value, if done properly, if done safely and up to code and all of that good stuff. So.
I mean, in my opinion, I think you need to put the porch back, and whether the porch going back is phase one, what that looks like, I think we would be up for reviewing. like you say, whether it's just a pergola or it's just open, whether it's just columns with a facade as phase one until you can find the money to enclose it or fully roof it or whatever, but I think you have to put it back in some form as phase one. I don't know what do you think we should, I mean, obviously we have to vote.
Well,
not-
This is
I don't
informal.
This is
understand how you
informal.
stage it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If you do a pergola system with columns, then that's one thing and you do it and it's done. If it's a porch roof with columns, you just gotta do it because you gotta put the roof on it.
John, let me ask a question, if I may. The plans that Tim has with regard to the enclosure, I suspect that this group could talk about at some future time, and maybe that would be phase two, if that's
Yeah,
still
that's
something that
kinda what
they're
I'm
still
thinking.
interested in. That would be a and not knowing whether this was part of the plan originally or not, was whether the roof of the porch could be constructed as part of phase one, and then phase two might be the enclosure later
And
on.
the
something
handicap
like that.
ramps, those pieces could be phase two.
So I mean, phase one, the roof is sized to be the roof of the enclosed structure underneath rather than just some random size.
Something like that, and I
Yeah,
haven't really
right.
studied that drawing, but it seems to me that wouldn't necessarily be out of character at all with what might fit in there. Well,
Is it your desire, if you had the wish to be able to do the enclosed facade, is that something you wanted to do, or you dismissed it because it was not feasible?
In 1998, it was more important to get 600 square feet there. At this point, we'd probably reevaluate that. Because the tenant that's in the first floor has got enough space now. He's changed direction of a sports shop. It's become a different type of venue, not as much room as needed.
Do you have the dimensions and all of the original porch?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm
It's
not
pretty
sure.
obvious from the concrete pad that's there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's still,
What it should be.
Yeah, it's
so the concrete pad, as you can see in the pictures.
The pad is there, everything is there.
correct. It's all there.
Let's put it this way, if you built the porch with the columns and either a flat roof and railing, which is what, history shows,
Right.
or, a hip type roof.
I was going to say hip type because the flat roof is where we've gotten in trouble.
Yeah.
We've actually taken that down twice.
Well, I
If you
understand.
remember. Kenwood
I mean,
Builders.
the railings are not necessary.
Correct.
The columns and an appropriate roof
Are you
structure.
talking the railings up on the top?
Pardon?
You're talking the railings on the top would be necessary if you have a porch up there, because the fire marshal and the building inspector would probably tell us we need it.
Well, I'm not.
It's just like the
I'm not
fellow from the
talking-
historic district was talking about, when he visited there, he wants to go out there, so.
I'm not
Not
talking
in
about
between.
that, Tom. I'm talk-
It could be a hip roof.
If it was a
that is
hip roof,
not
then
intended
it
to
would be totally
up.
different. You're just talking about a facade, it wouldn't need the railings, et cetera. A flat roof would
Right.
lend itself to people going out there. People aren't going to sit on a slant.
Not necessarily, no, I don't agree with that. You can secure that opening that is now the door inside to the point where it's safe. And, you gotta bust something to get out there, okay? It's a question of design and the cost of one way or the other. But if you have a structure there that substantially replaces the porch, that's the original porch, your grandfather, and you've solved our problem. And that's what we'd like to look at. And I think we need to look at it professionally prepared, all right? Not to the extent that we're looking at Emil's
I did,
project, all right?
okay.
Now,
Those, I want to take Tom off the hook. Those little
to,
things were mine.
while you're thinking about this and thinking about the future of that building, then you can incorporate future design thoughts, let's put it that way, that if you're going to do this and eventually it's going to be a bump out, then a professional can give you the kinds of things that you need to do while construction is, that will save you money in the future.
Even if your plan isn't to do the bump out yourself, but it gives you that marketing option. It's here are the plans, it's done as if this could be done in the future, should you decide you wanted to sell it. So I think the idea that you build a roof with the expansion in mind is just a, forward-thinking way to approach it.
Yep.
I find our building official to be very good when you're talking about the kinds of issues and problems that you guys are talking about, okay? That doesn't mean he's gonna, let's put it this way, he's creative. I just worked with him a little bit with the meeting house, okay? And ultimately, it was decided that we can't do anything much in the meeting house because of the way it's built. But he's willing to look at those kinds of situations, particularly with the older buildings, because he understands that we have to adjust to maintain the kind of streetscape that we want to maintain in that area.
All right, so I think in summary, you have to put the porch back in some fashion.
Well, what we do is at this
And
point.
come back to us with some actual design.
Just, maybe I have a building permit that's in the process or has been accepted and payment has been made. So I just need to know, because I don't want to be embarrassed for Memorial Day, but I guess we're saying we're leaving that the way it is. I can't do anything with that.
Yeah, I think what I'll do is, Thomas, I'll talk to Henry in the morning and let him know what the design review board's recommendation was, and see where we go from there. Indicate what the discussion was about and how we best get to.
Just
In terms of, for Memorial Day, I mean, you just want to, is there something you could do to cover up the black?
well, we would have to do pretty much
Yeah.
what we wrote down.
Yeah, all right.
I've got I have painters ready for tomorrow. So I'm not even gonna paint it, I gotta do something else.
Yeah, we have,
For white blue banners.
I mean, I don't know how you, it's
we
gonna,
have to-
what's painting it gonna
The
do?
window overhangs there, has the black stuff, we wanted to, get rid of shingle.
So you were
I just want to know the final things so I can do it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna sit like that with the black and everything else until he comes up with a design and submits it to us for review and it gets approved and built. It could be months.
First of all, this is an informal. It would take a motion to change it to an application.
I'm not suggesting that, John. I'm just saying, I'm just making sure everybody here is aware of that we will have to look at that for potentially 6 to 8 months in the summer with 4th of July, Memorial Day, and it's an eyesore. And I just want everybody to make sure there's nothing we could do to help it in any small way.
I think Hiram's suggestion that he'll talk to the building department about how he might work through that's the best one, because I hate to see them spending money.
I know, you
that
agree.
If money's got to be spent, spend it toward the
Right.
ultimate goal.
And is there something temporary they could do to cover the black up or something? I don't know. I mean, you would, in your opinion, because it's what, flashing? It's left over like,
I think it's,
Well,
We'd have to
Tar
bring the
from the
shake,
roof?
you have to bring the shake shingles
does it bother
down
you?
to the small overhang roof lines, and then those could be shingled to match the upper shingles. There would be little white facade around that, just to clean it up, and the front would be painted.
Yeah.
And the round columns would go back on the ends,
I know
because on the end of the porch were half columns that went up against the building. And those I have,
Yeah.
so they would go back on.
Are they still structurally sound?
Yeah, they were, I'm John, I'll refer to, fiberglass, is that what columns are made,
Yeah.
correct?
They're fiberglass.
They're fiberglass, so they don't rot or anything.
Well, the columns you have are half columns.
No, just the two that go on the ends.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yeah,
they're
all right.
end caps to the front of
Yes.
the building.
How many columns altogether?
I have,
Well, you got four
Ten.
phones on sides.
Four
You have
full?
the half columns are against,
you know,
Well, you gotta replace the
Second
coin,
picture.
their
1,
coins on
2,
the corner.
3, 4, 5,
They're all crappy
6.
aluminum.
I've got 8. I know I've got
Well,
8
see,
full columns.
that gives you enough to create the scene, all right? As an example, for, you know, if you're thinking about the future, what you can do is, I mean, you have I'm talking out of school because I don't know what all the dimensions are and whatnot. But the columns
This right here.
presumably hold up the structure. Well, they can be on the pad, but the structure can have a little bit of overhang. So that if you say, well, all right, what we ought to have here is an additional 8 feet, as an argument, and we only have 6. Well, you can do a 2-foot overhang for a future,
It's used in residential.
you know, enclosure part. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about phasing it. Look ahead a little bit. Without spending any money ahead, but look ahead and see what the opportunity might be with a little bit of change in, like I say, the overhang of the structure, for example.
All right, we're not going to solve the design here tonight. That's not the point. So
Not our
I
business.
think it's our opinion right now is that you're going to have to leave it the way it is. We're all going to accept that it's going to look like that until they come back with some design. And you'll talk to the building official about the permit fee and whatever else he did and however that works, and then hang some red banner over it for Memorial Day.
Yeah. The end result is there will be a porch there eventually.
Yep.
I move the question.
And you'll be happy in the end.
Madam Chairman, I move the question.
Hold on, he wants to say one
Final
thing.
comments, just, as I've been 67 years historically preserves town of Simsbury, my brother's 66 years. You know, our intent is always try to make it, but as we all know, having lived here all our lives, things do change in the middle. I do want you to take that picture that you all have, look at that and tell me what that white building was in there. If we're talking about preserving pristinely the same way,
No, I didn't say that.
well, I'm just asking, I'm
we're asking a
not being
question.
wise, I'm just asking a question to see if
He's just being
anybody.
theoretical.
And I don't know what that building
I know.
is.
Do you know what it is?
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
What is
it's
it?
a barber shop.
It was a bar.
Oh,
Yeah,
is it?
that's right.
You know who took it down?
No.
Go look it up in the records, down Simsbury.
There
Thomas
was a barber
Simsbury, when they
shop.
bought the building next door.
And they had the barber pole
is
there.
that
That was
where
a
the-
real problem when they wanted to use it somewhere else.
Driveway
That's
is
where
now?
the town hall was when I moved
Yeah,
here.
I think so, because that's.
Is that where the driveway
building
is
Yeah.
Oh, that's
The
funny.
driveway was always there. It was actually right between the driveway opening and the town hall. I mean, it was almost a butt to that building.
Thanks for
Thank you,
coming in.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right, John, you want to make a motion for a question?
No, it's over.
Okay,
It's over.
Yeah, we didn't have to vote.
it's good. Okay.
Conversation.
So somebody
So I think they got
granted,
it.
So you
somebody
know what
granted them a
that
building
means.
permit?
That means ends the
He
discussion.
was talking about a building permit and a fee.
We submitted one, no action's been taken because we talked to the building official.
I don't think there's any halfway solution to this thing. And we knew they were coming, we knew they were gonna try and do it on the cheap. And you know, that's, here we
So can
are.
you give them their building permit check back, or?
I'll talk to Henry about that. Actually, I think that the tone of the discussion, and then I certainly understand the content of the
Are
discussion.
there tenants upstairs now?
Yes, apparently there are.
Used to be a bunch of school teachers. Bunch of drugs.
So I would- I will talk to-
We're not often this unanimous.
There will be a porch.
Pretty,
I still think he should take some of those red, white, and blue like flower things, you know, from Memorial Day, just cover up that black thing.
Bunting.
Those
Yeah,
bunting.
right.
Is that
If you
bunting?
took that
That's right.
railing
That's all he has to do.
fence and made it into a storefront.
cannot
you
feel
could
sorry
kill
for
two
these
birds
guys
with one
at
stone.
all.
Bunting, a
If you
couple
have columns-
flags,
If you have
fireworks.
columns, you must have a lintel.
yeah, it has to be proportional,
And
obviously.
proportion, and that signboard on top of it, and it would be a hell of a lot less expensive to do it that way.
All right.
Yep.
Good, so we are,
I think Hiram's got some announcements or
Just some brief
correspondence.
things.
Business.
And actually, I just want to let you know, I was unaware of that 98 plan. I hadn't seen that or heard anything about it, so interesting.
Yeah.
Just a couple things. We are in the process, just in the very beginning process stages of revising the zoning regulations, not the town center so much of the Hartford piece, but the rest of the regulations. And one of the things, in addition to lighting, which I know this board's talked about before, and we're going to spend some time talking about that later on, not today, but later on in the process, parking is another one that is kind of interesting. It's always fascinating to me about people's different views on parking. And so one of the articles that I gave you from Planning Magazine, which just came out, it's kind of interesting. It talks about a study that was done by the University of Connecticut, actually. This is a national magazine. Estimated that Hartford dedicates about 15% of the central business district land, more than 7.5 million square feet of parking. And interesting, if each office worker, it says, needed 250 square feet of building space, which is a conservative estimate, that means that the city could accommodate 30,000 additional jobs with that space. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not trying to equate Simsbury with Hartford. I'm just trying to say that as we go through this process, I think we should think about not only where the parking is allocated, but how much of it we actually need. Some developers will come in, and some of you know full well that developers will tell you, we need as much parking as we need. We don't need a lot more. We certainly don't need a lot less. So that the juggling match, the idea is that it's always to coordinate with how much parking we actually need with what we actually have. In most cases, a lot of the parking is vacant much of the time. In addition to creating not only the heat island effect and other things like that, it also creates additional runoff, stormwater runoff, and it's also not necessary. So as we think about whether these buildings are either enclosed or reshaped or brought to the street or whatever it happens to be, I'd just like us to give some thought to the whole parking question as we go forward. Do we have the right ratios in the regulations? Can we change those? Should we change those? So I just wanted to give you this article to take a look at, just give it some thought and see what you think about that. I think that we can make a lot of the parking lots a lot more efficient and effective, and put some really nice designs in some of these parking lots as well. Green it up a little bit, bring some of the buildings to the street, and put the parking behind the buildings where it belongs. So that's tough, and some of it deal with retail people all the time. Retailers will come in and tell you, they want the parking in front. The people will be able to see the parking so they can park there. I think that's beginning to change a little bit, although I'm still not convinced that all the retailers will agree right away that they can put the parking behind. So I just wanted to give you that article on parking anyway. Take a look at that and let me know if you have any comments on that.
About a year ago, maybe longer, they were talking about improvements on 10, like slowing down traffic with the sign. Has that just sort of disappeared?
Well, it hasn't really disappeared, honey. One of the things we talked about was restriping the lanes, and we did do that. When we repaved it, we have 11-foot lanes now, which has provided some additional parking in some areas of Hop Meadow.
Yeah.
We've actually been working with the DOT for, gosh, it's got to be 3 or 4 years now, trying to get certain parking signs where it says no parking, trying to get those removed. It's been a real struggle, but we're very close to getting that actually done. So there'll be some additional parking along some sections of Hop Meadow. In addition to that, we had planned as part of the town center charrette that we did in 2009, there was a couple of bump outs that were proposed as well. Still working on that. I think when Rich Sawitsky was here just before he left, we actually had some preliminary designs done. What happens when you do that is the state won't take any responsibility for that section of the highway. So then we have to plow that section of the road.
So there's a financial implication that comes into play because we then have to take over the plowing of it. So we're still wrestling with how to do that. And if people feel strongly enough about it, we should continue to try to push forward with that as well. With regard to slowing down traffic, I had an interesting call one day from a person who lives out of town, north of town, but works south of town. And we're calling complaining about how much development we had done and how the traffic was getting so bad that she couldn't get to work on time anymore. So I said, well, one of the things that we're trying to do is slow down traffic on Route 10. So I didn't mean to be, a wise guy or anything, but I wanted to say that if you could go a little bit slower, that's fine with us anyway. So that kind of all fits together. So those are the things we're starting on. When you talk about traffic or talk about the state, it's like pushing a rope. It's very, very slow to get that process done.
But the DOT is involved with everything. Every state.
They are, and they've got a process that for everything, and it takes a long time because there are many different sections and divisions involved in that as well. So.
And often their concerns are in direct contradiction to our concerns.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the terms that was used during the charrette was that the DOT tends to see the highway as kind of a traffic sewer, and as much as they can get through it in a shorter period of time, that's what they'd like to do. And of course, our view is you'd like to be able to walk across the street without getting killed and feel fairly safe when doing that, and people would actually stop when you're in the crosswalk or near it. That would be helpful as well. So there are lots of chances out there that you take on a daily basis. So you're absolutely right, John, that they're totally in opposition.
I see they started Berkshire Bank.
They did. They started this week. They just started some.
Yeah, I saw that. That's
Wow,
good.
finally,
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely.
It's been a while.
Where's that?
Right on the corner of 44 and Bushy Hill.
By McDonald's.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
saw that.
McDonald's.
That was
Yeah,
a year and a half ago.
yeah, that will really do a great thing for that. I mean, get rid of the gas, another gas station, a real office bank.
Yeah.
Speaking of the gas station, when are they going to start the other one?
Well, they
They did, Cumberland Farms.
Cumberland Farms.
They did, they started.
yeah.
Oh, they did?
Yeah.
Just in the last week or so.
Yeah, just this week.
Just started doing some minor grading down there now. Actually, there's a pre-construction meeting for the gas lines tomorrow.
It's all
Oh,
fenced
good,
in
wow,
now.
just today. Oh, wow.
So
Really just.
they'll be doing the barn, the pool barn building and the convenience store at the same time. So it'll be a busy site for a while, but they would like to be open by the fall, so that will move right along pretty quickly.
And how about the memorials, the two memorials? The one by the Simsbury Library and the Martin Luther King one.
The Martin Luther King one, the Historical Society is still wrestling with how those things are going to work and where buildings are going to go. The one by the library is moving forward. The town actually just got some money so that the town will actually be taking over that project and sort of managing it with some steep grants that we got. So that'll be starting fairly soon as well. And hopefully sometime in the fall, that would be.
And the Martin Luther King thing?
Yeah, I don't know the status of that. Well, I think that the Historical Society has originally talked about putting it right in that corner where the old reddish building is right now. Then they talked about not moving that building, but moving the memorial behind that building. So there's some question about exactly where it's going to be located. There are a number of different factors associated with the Historical Society, and depending upon who you talk to, they have different ideas. And so I think they need to kind of get their plan together and unify it before they move forward. So I don't have as clear a timeline on that one as the other one.
I see there's shovels in the ground for many things in town, but none for Big Y.
I somehow thought that question might come up, and got an email from Big Y last week and asked them about their specific plans. And they tell me that they're going to start in the spring, next spring.
Next
Like 2016 spring?
Yeah. So
Never happening.
Be open for, well, that's all I can report is the latest that I've been told. So there wasn't, as you know, initially some holdup because of the access and the property next door and so on. And then what happens is with the construction schedules, as things get pushed back and funds get reallocated. So what I'm told is that they're going to start next spring. So, there are some other things actually up in that area.
Even when I see it.
That are going, yeah, exactly. There are some other things that are going on up in that area, so hopefully you'll get some, at least some informal in the next couple of months, is for some of the other things up in that area as well.
Did they transfer the title to that property?
Yes.
So Big Y owns it now?
They do own it, yeah. But in December, actually, so.
And at the Walker starting, right? I think I
At the
saw.
Walkers, yeah, full tilt on
Yeah,
that
that'd
one.
be good.
Who owns the Nino's the building with the old gas station, is that still owned by the oil company?
Yes, it is. Yeah, we're having discussions with them right now on several things. One is Getty, or used to be Green Valley Oil, owned it. And they were auctioning, remember several months ago, there was an auction actually. And there was lots of discussion about whether the property had been determined to be clean by the DEP or not. That is, there was a spill there about 24, 25 years ago. And what the oil company wanted was a letter from the DEP indicating that the property had been determined that it was clean. And there was some back and forth about that, and that letter was not forthcoming, and so that property was withdrawn from the auction. So the oil company that previously owned it still owns it right now. There's some discussion about what could happen with that building. There's been a number of discussions, some of them fairly positive actually. Number one, about making sure that the property is clean, that's finally clean after all this time. And number two is the possibility of taking out the gas pumps that are there and repurposing that building. In fact, one of the plans that I had heard about, possibly even taking that building down, bringing it to the street and putting the parking behind it, which I thought would be really kind of neat as well.
Is the difference in, the reason for the difference in elevation of that and the other plaza next to it because of the height of the oil tanks that are buried? Is that the reason why it's at a different elevation?
Yeah, I'm not sure I could tell you that. Somebody.
I mean, there's a...
Yeah, I know what you mean, Paul. I just am not sure about that.
My guess would be that the plaza's lower because they had to go back so far, they've got multiple layers in the back, so they cut down.
No, I understand that part of it. I'm talking about the gas station, because there's a
I think they would have been at that level up
It
front
would have been, yeah,
before the
retained.
plaza took
Yeah.
it down so they could get their grade.
There's no way they were gonna bring in enough fill to keep the plaza at the same level.
Right.
Because you're talking about a 12-foot diameter tank.
Yeah, I mean, the Getty station is pretty much street level. I mean, that's pretty darn dead level there. But there's no question that in terms of how it looks and how it functions, there's a lot of improvements that could be done there. And we've talked to them, and frankly, in all fairness to the current operator of that facility, he would like to get it cleaned up as well himself. And he's a little bit hamstrung by the fact that he doesn't own the building, so he's trying to work through that as well. So we're trying to work through that, and hopefully by the end of the summer, we'll have some sort of plan for that property as well. Ideally, I'd like to see some property, something happen to the Andes building that's next door as well there. I don't want to go into the details of that right now, but I think a lot of things could happen there that will make that a lot more productive.
Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's.
Too small.
Trader
I had that
Joe's.
discussion earlier today with somebody else and working away on that. Let me tell you about this last article.
The one there.
The last one that I gave you talks a little bit about creating pedestrian-friendly suburbs. And again, a lot of the things that are talked about here are for places that are a lot more urban than Simsbury certainly is. But the idea is about getting the parking right, getting it walkable, making sure that the codes are aligned, making sure that the infrastructure matches the codes. Those kinds of things are what we're all talking about. So I just wanted to get you those two articles to think about as we begin to start to work through the zoning regulations process. And we'll be having more discussions about that as we go forward. I'll give the same two articles to the zoning commission tonight, and hopefully we can get those things moving forward. Good discussion earlier, and we'll talk. I'll get the building official, and we'll talk about that and try to get this thing to move forward in the correct way. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. We need to approve the meeting minutes real quick.
Move that we accept them?
All right, so moved and move to adjourn.
We ought to vote on the minutes.
What? Yes, all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Any opposed? No. All right, motion to adjourn.
So move.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Correct.